My parents gave away my college fund to pay for my sister's European honeymoon. When I confronted them with the tuition papers, my dad said, "You're smart, you'll figure it out." That was 6 weeks ago. Yesterday, they got an eviction notice with my name still listed on the lease, and my sister was on the phone to her fiancé, crying about canceling the cake. It was never my plan, but they forced me to. It all blew up about a month before college started. I had gotten into Columbia, my dream school, full acceptance, but it wasn't a full scholarship, so the deposit and first semester stuff were going to be expensive. It was fine though. My parents had been telling me since I was 12 that they had a college fund for me. They made a huge deal about it too. Every time they said no to buying me new shoes or gifts for my birthday, it always ended with some version of, "But remember, we're saving for your future." Fast forward to now, the time to use that fund was finally here. I was excited, but every time I asked about it, they got weird. My dad would say he was busy. My mom would tell me we would talk about it later. A few times I caught them whispering in the kitchen, and when I walked in, they would go silent like I was not supposed to hear. My stomach started sinking, but I kept hoping I was just being paranoid. 3 days before the deposit deadline, I sat them down. I had all the papers printed and highlighted. I explained everything, the amount, the deadline, how important it was. I even told them about the scholarships I'd applied for, trying to show them I was not just relying on the fund. They would not look at me. My dad just stared at the TV like he wished he could crawl into it. My mom fiddled with the hem of her shirt. After a few minutes of silence, my dad cleared his throat and said, "The college fund is gone." I did not get it at first. I thought maybe they moved it, or it was just tied up somewhere. I asked what he meant, and that was when my mom started crying and rambling about Sophia. She was my perfect, can do no wrong. According to them, she deserved a perfect start to her marriage. That her honeymoon was once in a lifetime. Luxury hotels, guided tours. Apparently she needed to go on it, but she and her husband could not afford it on their own. So my parents gave her my college fund so she could. My dad tried to soften it by saying I was smart and resourceful, that I could start at community college and transfer later. My mom said maybe I could stay home and help with bills for a while and they would figure something out eventually. They kept using words like family first and making sacrifices. Right then, Sophia waltzed into the room flipping through a wedding magazine. She saw the tension and asked what was happening. My mom told her and she just laughed and said, "You'll thank us when it is your turn to get married." She did not even blink, did not even pretend to feel bad. That was the exact second something inside me shut off. I realized I was never the daughter they were investing in. I was the daughter they were using. That night, I made a list of everything I handled for them. Bills, insurance, mortgage stuff, doctor's appointments. I realized they were completely screwed without me, and I decided I was done. I called my uncle and asked if I could stay with him. He said yes without a second thought. While my family was out celebrating Sophia's bridal shower that weekend, I packed my bags. I left my house key on the kitchen counter with a short note that just said, "Thanks for everything. I'm moving out." Before I left, I went through all the accounts. I removed my email and phone number from everything. I canceled automatic payments linked to my bank account. I changed every password they had ever made me set up. I logged them out of every system they did not even know how to access without me. I got on a bus to my uncle's place with 2 suitcases and my backpack. The fallout came fast. First, my parents lost internet because they did not realize the bill was due. Then the lights got cut because they never figured out how to reset the autopay. Then Sophia crashed the car and found out the insurance had lapsed. Medical bills started piling up because no one was around to translate for the doctors or file claims. They didn't even know how to pay rent without me. They were getting evicted. Oh yeah, I never mentioned, none of them spoke English, so they were totally screwed. But I did not feel bad. I wanted to just forget about them. But then I came home to my uncle's one day, and I found Sophia, as well as my parents. They were moving in, and there was nothing I could do about it. I froze in the doorway, keys still in my hand. My uncle was nowhere to be seen. The 3 of them just stared at me like I was some kind of ghost. I felt my heart pounding in my chest as anger, confusion, and a weird sense of betrayal all hit me at once. "What the hell are you doing here?" I finally managed to say. My mom burst into tears, her go-to move, while my dad stood there looking uncomfortable. Sophia, on the other hand, had the audacity to look annoyed, like I was the one who had invaded her space. "Your uncle said we could stay here for a while," my dad explained, not quite meeting my eyes, "until we figure things out." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was supposed to be my safe space, my escape from them. I turned around and stormed back out the door, slamming it behind me. I needed to find my uncle and figure out what the hell was going on. I found him at the corner store, buying cigarettes. He hadn't smoked in years, which told me he was stressed. When he saw me, he had the decency to look guilty. I didn't yell at him. I just asked why. He explained that my dad had called him crying, saying they were having serious trouble managing their bills and paperwork. Their internet had been spotty for over a week. They had no way to easily communicate with various service providers. Sophia's wedding was in 2 months, and everything was falling apart. "They're still family, Maria," he said, looking torn. "I know what they did was wrong, but I couldn't turn them away when they were struggling." I reminded him that they had stolen my future to pay for Sophia's honeymoon. He sighed and said he knew, but he couldn't turn them away. He promised it would just be for a few weeks until they got back on their feet. He also promised I could keep my room. They would sleep in the living room. "I understand why you're upset," he added, "but maybe this is a chance for them to see how much they've taken you for granted." I wanted to be mad at him, but I couldn't. Uncle Richard had always been there for me. He was the one who'd taken me in without question. So I swallowed my anger and went back to the apartment. The next few days were a nightmare. The apartment was tiny, just 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a combined kitchen-living room. With 5 adults crammed in there, it felt like we were stepping on each other constantly. Sophia took over the bathroom every morning for her beauty routine. My parents whispered in Spanish in the kitchen, going quiet whenever I walked in. The worst part was that nothing had changed. 3 days after they moved in, my mom asked me to help her pay a bill online. I refused. My dad needed help calling the electric company about their service. I told him to figure it out himself. Sophia needed me to translate some wedding vendor emails. I laughed in her face. They acted shocked, like they couldn't believe I wasn't jumping to help them, like the past month hadn't happened, like they hadn't stolen my college fund and forced me to completely change my plans for my future. A week into this nightmare living situation, I came home from work to find Sophia going through my stuff. She had my laptop open and was scrolling through my emails. "What are you doing?" I yelled, grabbing my computer from her. "Language!" My mom called from the kitchen like I was still 12. Sophia rolled her eyes. "Relax. I was just checking if Columbia sent you anything new. Mom and Dad feel really bad, you know. Not bad enough to give me back my college fund," I snapped. "It's already spent," she said with a shrug. The honeymoon package was non-refundable. I wanted to scream. The casual way she dismissed years of my parents' promises made me see red. Instead, I grabbed my laptop and locked myself in my room. I could hear them talking about me in the living room, my mom saying I was being selfish and dramatic. That night, I made a decision. I couldn't stay there with them. It was too painful, too infuriating. But I also couldn't afford to move out on my own. Every penny I earned was going toward trying to save for Columbia. I started spending as much time away from the apartment as possible. I picked up extra shifts at work. I studied at the library until closing time. I volunteered for weekend events just to have somewhere else to be. Anything to avoid being in that cramped apartment with the people who had betrayed me. 2 weeks after they moved in, I got an email from Columbia. They were offering me a partial scholarship. Not enough to cover everything, but enough to make a dent. I was ecstatic. This meant I might actually be able to attend in the spring semester if I could save enough for the deposit and first semester costs. I made the mistake of checking the email on my phone while eating dinner with everyone. I couldn't help the smile that spread across my face. "Good news?" Uncle Richard asked. Before I could stop myself, I blurted out, "Columbia offered me a partial scholarship." My parents exchanged looks. My mom reached across the table to squeeze my hand. "That's wonderful, Mija. See? Everything works out." I pulled my hand away. "It doesn't cover everything. I still need to come up with the deposit and part of the tuition. You'll figure it out," my dad said. Like it was that simple. Like they hadn't made it 1,000 times harder for me. Sophia piped up, "Maybe you could start a GoFundMe or something. People love sob stories." I stared at her, not believing what I was hearing. A sob story? You mean like how my parents gave away my college fund so their favorite daughter could stay in luxury hotels in Europe? The table went silent. My uncle looked uncomfortable. My mom started tearing up again. My dad focused intently on his plate. Sophia just rolled her eyes. "Always so dramatic," she muttered. I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. "I'm dramatic? You're the one who needed a fairy tale wedding and honeymoon you couldn't afford. You're 25 years old, Sophia. Why couldn't you pay for your own honeymoon like a normal adult?" "Because family helps family," my mom interjected. "We would do the same for you when you get married." I laughed, a harsh sound that surprised even me. "No, you wouldn't. You'd tell me you spent all the money on Sophia, just like you've been doing my entire life." I stormed off to my room again, slamming the door. I could hear them talking about me, my mom crying, my dad trying to calm her down, Sophia loudly proclaiming that I was just jealous of her. The next morning, I woke up to find Sophia's fiancé, Marco, sitting in the living room. Great. Another person in our already crowded apartment. He gave me an awkward wave as I headed to the kitchen for coffee. "Hey, Maria," he said, following me. "Can we talk for a minute?" I shrugged, pouring myself a cup of coffee. "What about?" He looked uncomfortable, glancing around to make sure we were alone. "Look, I just wanted to say, I didn't know about the college fund thing. Sophia told me her parents were giving us the honeymoon as a wedding gift. I had no idea it was meant for your education." I studied his face, trying to decide if he was being sincere. Marco had always seemed like a decent guy, if a bit bland. The kind of person who went along with whatever Sophia wanted to avoid conflict. "Would it have made a difference if you knew?" I asked. He hesitated, which was answer enough. "I would have felt bad about it," he finally said. "But you still would have taken the money." I finished for him. He didn't deny it. "I'm sorry, Maria. I really am. But what's done is done. We can't give the money back. It's already paid for everything." I nodded, unsurprised. "Then there's nothing to talk about." As I tried to walk past him, he grabbed my arm. "Wait, I do want to help somehow. I know you're good with computers and stuff. My company is looking for part-time data entry people. It pays pretty well, and you can work remotely. I could put in a good word for you." I considered telling him to shove his job offer, but the practical part of me recognized an opportunity. More money meant getting to Columbia faster. I took down the details and thanked him, though it felt like swallowing glass. That afternoon, I applied for the job. 3 days later, I got it. The pay was better than my current job, and I could work from anywhere with internet. I immediately gave notice at my old job and threw myself into the new one. For the next few weeks, I developed a routine. Wake up early, before anyone else. Work on my laptop until the apartment got too noisy. Go to the library to work more. Come home late, when everyone was already in bed. Repeat. I was making good money, but I was exhausted all the time. Meanwhile, wedding preparations were ramping up. Sophia had dress fittings and cake tastings and venue visits. My mom was constantly asking me to translate emails or make phone calls to vendors who didn't speak Spanish. I refused every time, which led to more tears and accusations of selfishness. One night, about a month after they moved in, I came home to find Sophia in tears on the couch. My first instinct was to ignore her. Her tears usually meant she wasn't getting her way about something trivial, but she looked genuinely upset, not just dramatic. "What's wrong?" I asked, against my better judgment. She looked up, surprised I was talking to her. "The wedding venue canceled on us. They said our deposit check bounced, and now they've booked someone else for that date." I sat down across from her. "That sucks. Can't you find another venue?" She shook her head. "Everything's booked. The wedding is in 3 weeks, and now the caterer is threatening to cancel too because we're late on their payment." She wiped her eyes. "Mom and Dad are freaking out. They can't figure out how to access their savings account online since you changed all the passwords." I felt a twinge of guilt, which I immediately squashed. "That's not my problem. I know you hate me right now," Sophia said quietly, "and maybe I deserve it. But this wedding, it's important to me. to all of us. More important than my education, obviously, I couldn't help saying. She didn't deny it, but her expression softened. I'm sorry about your college fund. I really am. I didn't know that's where the money was coming from. Mom and Dad just said they wanted to give us a special honeymoon as a wedding gift. I wanted to believe her, but years of watching Sophia manipulate our parents made me skeptical. You never asked where they suddenly got thousands of dollars for a luxury European vacation? She looked away. I assumed they had savings. I didn't think to question it. She paused. I should have, though. I know how they've always talked about your college fund. We sat in uncomfortable silence for a minute. Finally, Sophia spoke again. Look, I know I can't fix what happened with your college fund, but I really need your help with this wedding situation. Just help me talk to the venue and the caterer, please. After that, you never have to help me again. I should have said no. I should have let her deal with the consequences of her actions for once in her life, but some stupid part of me, the part that had been raised to be the responsible one, the fixer, couldn't just sit there while everything fell apart. Fine, I said. I'll call them tomorrow, but this is the last time I'm fixing your problems. The relief on her face was almost worth it. Almost. The next day, I called the venue and managed to work out a deal. They couldn't give us the original date back, but they had an opening the following weekend. I called the caterer and explained the situation, promising payment by the end of the week. I helped my dad access his savings account so he could transfer money to cover the costs. For a brief moment, it felt like old times. My family was grateful, telling me how smart I was, how they couldn't manage without me. But the warm feeling quickly faded when I remembered why we were in this situation in the first place. After sorting out the wedding crisis, I went back to avoiding them as much as possible. I was saving money quickly with my new job, but I was still far short of what I needed for Columbia. The deadline for spring semester deposits was approaching fast, and I was starting to accept that I might need to wait until next fall. Then, 2 weeks before Sophia's wedding, something unexpected happened. I got an email from Columbia's financial aid office. Someone had nominated me for a special scholarship for first-generation college students. It would cover almost all of my remaining costs. All I needed to do was write an essay and submit it within a week. I was ecstatic. This could be my ticket to starting in the spring, after all. I threw myself into writing the essay, pouring my heart out about being the first in my family to go to college, about translating for my immigrant parents since childhood, about my dreams for the future. I was so focused on the essay that I didn't notice Sophia reading over my shoulder until she spoke. Wow, that's really good, she said, making me jump. You're going to get that scholarship for sure. I quickly minimized the window. Thanks. Don't you have wedding stuff to do? She shrugged. Everything's under control now, thanks to you. She hesitated, then added, I read the whole thing while you were in the bathroom. Your essay, I mean. I didn't know you felt that way about being the family translator and stuff. I didn't know what to say to that. Of course she didn't know how I felt. She'd never bothered to ask. Anyway, she continued when I didn't respond, I think it's great that you might get to go to Columbia after all. You deserve it. The words sounded sincere, but it was too little, too late. I just nodded and turned back to my computer, waiting for her to leave. Instead, she sat down on my bed. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about how Mom and Dad always favored me. I kept my eyes on my screen. And, you're right. They did. They do. I never really saw it before because it benefited me. But living here, watching how hard you work, how you've been handling everything on your own since you were a kid, it's made me realize some things. I finally looked at her. Like what? Like how I've been taking advantage of you too. Not just Mom and Dad. I should have learned Spanish better. I should have helped with the family stuff instead of letting it all fall on you. She twisted her engagement ring nervously. I'm sorry, Maria. I really am. I wanted to stay angry. It was easier than forgetting everything that had happened, but seeing Sophia actually reflect on her behavior was so unexpected that I didn't know how to respond. Thanks for saying that, I finally managed. She nodded, standing up. I'll let you finish your essay, but maybe we could talk more later? I'd like to try to fix things between us, if that's possible. After she left, I sat staring at my essay for a long time, thinking about what she'd said. Was it possible to fix our relationship after everything that had happened? Did I even want to try? I finished my essay and submitted it, pushing those questions aside for later. The scholarship results wouldn't be announced for another 2 weeks, right after Sophia's wedding. Until then, all I could do was wait and keep saving money just in case. The day before the wedding, chaos erupted in my uncle's apartment. My mom was frantically ironing dresses. My dad was trying to figure out how to tie a tie by watching YouTube videos. Sophia was having a meltdown because her veil had a small tear in it. I stayed in my room, trying to work, but the noise was impossible to ignore. Eventually, there was a knock on my door. It was Uncle Richard. Can you help? He asked, looking exhausted. Your mom is about to have a heart attack, and I don't know how to fix a veil. I sighed and closed my laptop. Fine, but I'm not going to the rehearsal dinner tonight. He nodded. Fair enough. I spent the next few hours helping with last-minute wedding preparations. I sewed Sophia's veil. I helped my dad with his tie. I translated a voicemail from the florist about delivery times. It felt so familiar, being the family fixer again, but this time I had boundaries. When my mom tried to rope me into calling all the relatives to confirm attendance, I firmly said no. That evening, everyone left for the rehearsal dinner. I had the apartment to myself for the first time in weeks. I should have enjoyed the peace and quiet, but instead, I felt restless. I kept thinking about Sophia's apology, about my scholarship essay, about the past and the future. On a whim, I decided to look at the honeymoon itinerary that had cost me my college fund. Sophia had left the folder on the coffee table. I flipped through it, looking at the luxury hotels in Paris, Rome, and Barcelona, the private tours, the first-class flights. It was extravagant, unnecessary, and completely unfair that my education had been sacrificed for this. As I was putting the folder back, an envelope fell out. Inside was a check, a wedding gift from Sophia's future in-laws. It was for $5,000. The memo line read, "For your new life together." I stared at the check, a plan forming in my mind. Sophia and Marco already had my college fund for their honeymoon. They didn't need this money too, and $5,000 would cover my deposit and part of my first semester at Columbia. For a moment, I seriously considered taking it. It would be so easy. They probably wouldn't even notice it was missing until after the honeymoon. By then, I'd be at Columbia, starting my new life. But as tempting as it was, I couldn't do it. I wasn't a thief. I put the check back in the envelope and the envelope back in the folder, then went to my room. The next morning was wedding day. I had agreed to help Sophia get ready, mostly because Uncle Richard had begged me. I did her hair and makeup while my mom fussed with the dress. Despite everything, Sophia looked beautiful, happy, excited for her big day. As I was helping her with her veil, she grabbed my hands. "Thank you for doing this. I know you're still mad at me." I shrugged. "It's your wedding day. I'm not going to ruin it." "Are you coming to the reception?" she asked hopefully. I hadn't planned to. I was going to help her get ready, attend the ceremony to make my uncle happy, then come back to the apartment to work. But something in her expression made me hesitate. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe." She nodded, understanding. "If you do come, I have something for you, but no pressure." I was curious despite myself. "What is it?" "You'll have to come to find out," she said with a small smile. The wedding ceremony was pretty standard as far as weddings go. I sat in the back row, mostly scrolling through my phone while the priest droned on about love and commitment. My parents were in the front row, dabbing at their eyes with tissues. I rolled my eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck in the back of my head. The whole thing felt like a giant production that I wanted no part of. After the ceremony, I was planning to head straight back to the apartment. I had a ton of work to catch up on, and honestly, I didn't feel like watching everyone celebrate Sophia all night. But as I was trying to sneak out, Uncle Richard caught me by the arm. "Just come for a little while," he said. "Have some food, maybe one dance, then you can go." I sighed. "Fine, 1 hour. That's it." The reception was at this medium-nice hotel ballroom. Nothing super fancy, but decent enough. I grabbed a seat at a table in the corner, as far from the head table as possible. I loaded up a plate with appetizers and kept to myself, watching everyone else have a good time. About halfway through dinner, Sophia clinked her glass and stood up. Everyone got quiet as she started giving a speech. I was only half listening until I heard my name. "And I want to especially thank my sister Maria," she said, looking right at me. "Not just for helping with the wedding, but for everything she's done for our family over the years." I froze with a shrimp halfway to my mouth. What the hell was happening? "Many of you don't know this," Sophia continued, "but Maria has been the backbone of our family since she was just a kid. She's translated for our parents, handled bills, dealt with insurance, and basically made it possible for us to function in this country." People were turning to look at me now. I wanted to slide under the table. "And I haven't always appreciated her the way I should have," Sophia said, her voice cracking a little. "In fact, I've taken advantage of her generosity. We all have." My mom was crying again. My dad was staring at his plate. Marco looked uncomfortable but supportive beside Sophia. "Maria got into Columbia University," Sophia announced to the room. "Her dream school. But she couldn't go because..." She paused, taking a deep breath. "Because our parents gave her college fund to us for our honeymoon." There were some awkward murmurs around the room. I felt my face burning with embarrassment. Why was she doing this? When Marco and I found out where the money had really come from, we were shocked. We talked about it and we decided we couldn't accept it. Not at the cost of Maria's future. "Wait, what?" This was news to me. I sat up straighter, completely confused. Sophia gestured to Marco, who stood up and handed her an envelope. "So, we're giving it back," she said, walking toward my table. "Well, not all of it, because some deposits were non-refundable, but most of it." She handed me the envelope. With shaky hands, I opened it and found a check inside. It was made out to me for $15,000, not the full amount of my college fund, which had been about $25,000, but a significant chunk of it. "It's from both of us, plus contributions from Marco's parents when they heard what happened," Sophia explained. "It should be enough for your deposit and first semester at Columbia." I stared at the check, then up at Sophia, completely speechless. This was the last thing I had expected. "We're also canceling the European honeymoon," Marco added. "We're going to do a road trip instead. Much more our style anyway." I didn't know what to say. Part of me was still angry. This money was mine to begin with, so why was I supposed to be grateful for getting some of it back? But another part was genuinely shocked that Sophia had admitted everything publicly and was trying to make it right. "Thank you," I finally managed to say. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was something. Sophia nodded, understanding. She went back to the head table, and the reception continued. I sat there staring at the check, trying to process what had just happened. Uncle Richard came over and sat next to me. Did you know about this? I asked him. He shook his head. No idea, but I'm glad they did the right thing. I stayed for another hour, mostly because I was too stunned to leave. People kept coming up to me, congratulating me on Columbia, telling me how smart I must be. It was weird getting attention at someone else's wedding. When I finally decided to head out, Sophia caught me by the door. Wait, she said, there's something else. She pulled me into a quiet corner away from the music and chatter. I meant what I said in there. I'm sorry for how I've treated you, for how we've all treated you. I nodded, still not sure how to feel. Thanks for the money. It will help a lot. It's not just about the money, she said. I've been thinking about everything you said, about being the family translator and taking care of all the adult stuff since you were a kid. It wasn't fair to you. No, it wasn't, I agreed. So I've been taking Spanish classes, she said, for the past month. I'm not very good yet, but I'm trying. And I've been learning how to do all the things you used to handle, bills, insurance, all that stuff. I raised my eyebrows, genuinely surprised. Really? She nodded. Really. I want to step up and take some responsibility. You shouldn't have to carry everything. For the first time in months, I felt a tiny crack in the wall I'd built around my heart. That's good. Thank you. And one more thing, she added. Marco and I found an apartment. We're moving in next week, so you won't have to deal with us cramping your space anymore. I couldn't help but laugh. That's honestly the best wedding gift you could give me. She smiled, and for a moment, it felt like maybe we could eventually be okay. I went back to Uncle Richard's place feeling weirdly light. The check was safely tucked in my wallet. It wasn't everything, but combined with my savings and the potential scholarship, it might be enough to get me to Columbia for the spring semester. The next morning, I woke up to find my parents sitting at the kitchen table looking serious. Great. Here comes the guilt trip about embarrassing them at the wedding or something. Can we talk? My dad asked as I poured myself coffee. I shrugged and sat down. About what? My mom reached across the table and took my hand. I almost pulled away but decided to hear them out. We are very sorry, Maria, she said in Spanish. What we did with your college money was wrong. My dad nodded. We got caught up in Sophia's wedding and forgot our promise to you. There's no excuse for that. I sipped my coffee, waiting for the but that usually followed these kinds of apologies. We want to help you, my dad continued. We don't have much, but we can contribute something each month toward your school costs. And I can get a second job, my mom added, to help more. I was surprised by the offer but still skeptical. Why now? Is it just because Sophia called you out publicly? They exchanged looks. Partly, my dad admitted, but also because seeing you these past weeks, how hard you work, how determined you are, made us realize what we've done. We've taken you for granted for too long. We always thought we were preparing you for success, my mom said, but really, we were just using you. Their honesty caught me off guard. It was probably the first time they'd ever acknowledged how unfairly they'd treated me. I appreciate that, I said carefully, but I need to know this isn't just talk. I can't go through this again. We understand, my dad said. We want to earn back your trust. It will take time, we know. I nodded, not making any promises. I'm going to apply for the spring semester at Columbia. With Sophia's check and my savings, I might have enough. What about the scholarship? My mom asked. The one you wrote the essay for? I'll find out next week, I said. It's a long shot, but worth trying. The next week was surprisingly peaceful. Sophia and Marco moved out as promised, giving me back my personal space. My parents were making an effort to handle their own affairs instead of asking me for help. My dad even figured out how to pay a bill online by himself, which was a minor miracle. I kept working and saving, just in case the scholarship didn't come through. I was so close to having enough for Columbia that I could almost taste it. Then, exactly 1 week after the wedding, I got an email from Columbia's financial aid office. I stared at it for a full minute before working up the courage to open it. Congratulations, it began. My heart started racing as I read on. I'd been awarded the scholarship. It would cover almost all my remaining costs after what I'd already saved and the money from Sophia. I was going to Columbia in January. My dream was actually happening. I ran out to the kitchen where Uncle Richard was cooking dinner. I got it, I shouted, waving my phone. I got the scholarship. He dropped his spatula and hugged me, lifting me off the ground. I knew you would. You're the smartest person in this family. My parents came in from the living room, confused by the commotion. When I told them the news, my mom burst into tears, happy ones this time, and my dad actually looked proud. You did it, mija, he said, all on your own. Not entirely on my own, I admitted. Sophia's check helped, and your offer to contribute monthly will help with living expenses. For the first time in months, we had a family dinner that didn't feel tense or awkward. We talked about my plans for Columbia, about what classes I might take, about where I might live. It felt almost normal. After dinner, I called Sophia to tell her the news. She screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. I'm so proud of you, she said. This is amazing. Thanks, I said. And thanks again for the check. It made a huge difference. It was the least we could do, she said. Literally the least. We still owe you so much more. We talked for a while about her new apartment and my upcoming move to New York. It wasn't like everything was magically fixed between us, but it was a start. The next few weeks flew by in a blur of preparations. I had to find housing in New York, register for classes, buy textbooks, and a million other things. My parents kept their word about helping financially, sending what they could each week. It wasn't much, but the gesture meant something. Sophia kept taking Spanish classes and even started helping my parents with some of the things I used to handle. She wasn't great at it yet, but she was trying, which was more than she'd ever done before. The day before I left for Colombia, my family threw me a small going-away party. Just the 5 of us. Me, Uncle Richard, my parents, and Sophia. Marco had to work, which was fine by me. It was nice having just family there. My mom made all my favorite foods. My dad gave me a new laptop bag he'd saved up for. Sophia gave me a care package full of dorm essentials and snacks. Uncle Richard gave me a Metro card with $100 already loaded on it. For getting around the city, he explained. New York is expensive. As we sat around eating and talking, I realized something had shifted. The anger that had been burning in me for months had cooled. It wasn't completely gone. I don't think I'll ever fully forget what happened, but it wasn't consuming me anymore. My family had messed up badly. They had taken me for granted, used me, and betrayed my trust. But they were trying to make amends in their own ways. And I was moving forward with my life, my dreams intact. The next morning, Uncle Richard drove me to the airport. My parents and Sophia came along to see me off. There were tears and hugs and promises to call often. As I headed toward security, I looked back at them one last time. They weren't perfect, far from it, but they were my family. And maybe, with time and distance and a lot more effort on their part, we could build something better than what we had before. I boarded my flight to New York feeling lighter than I had in months. I was finally on my way to Colombia, to the future I'd worked so hard for. It hadn't happened the way I expected, and the journey had been painful at times, but I'd made it, and that was all that mattered.